You're secretly recording all this for sound bites later.
flows, shaking from my temple to my ankles. Sunny, but I need another raincoat. Waiting by a payphone, finally I coughed up some awful information that I thought of. Well, they think I've been messing with the wrong stuff. Nah, I've been messing with the right shit. Yeah, I fucking like it. Waiting for the call to come. Who could say it was easy? Sad about the bad I've done on my grave. Please believe me. Static on the line. I hear it all the time, but I'm quiet when you make me fade. Feel it coming back. Watch it turn to black, but I'm brighter when you make me fade. You make me fade. You make me fade. You make me brighter when you make me fade. You make me fade. You
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our second episode of We Are OPL, the show where you get to have your chat with our OPL pros. Very, very excited to get you ahead with this next episode. But make sure, if you're on social media, make sure you use that hashtag IamOPL if you want to share any of your thoughts about the show moving forward. But more importantly, share your questions. And tonight, we are going to have Team Immunity's support player, T-Gun, joining us. It's going to be very, very exciting. So make sure, head over to Twitter, use that hashtag IamOPL, and you can ask him any questions you like. He's actually expressed to me already that he's more than happy to answer the difficult ones as well, so do not hold back. But without further ado, let's head over and say hi. Welcome, T-Gun. How you doing, man?
It's good today. Better than yesterday, and especially better than I was at about 7 p.m. last night.
I have a feeling that I know what you're talking about. And I think at the beginning of the show, let's get the elephant out of the room, T-Gun. A little bit unfortunately, you dropped the first victory for Sudden Fear so far in the OPL. Now 1-10 for that side, but you guys really sort of fumbling what was a base race towards the end there. A little bit ridiculous. And first, just to add some context for our viewers at home, wonderfully enough, we are just going to show a bit of a video of exactly what went wrong there. So as I bring it up on the screen, here we are. This is exactly how it went down. Oh, let's just get rid of that for a moment.
something. They're going to race. Immunity coming in. They get the towel, but it's late. Robo's buying time. Immunity realize their mistake. Sudden fear. Going to end the game. Immunity. Massive misplay towards the end of the game. And sudden
This is like the most depressing thing.
Okay, it's over. It's over. It's okay. T-Gun, just take us through exactly what you were thinking towards the end of that game. I mean, surely there must have been some sort of wires crossed, something happened. Tell us what was going through your mind.
So obviously we had a pretty basic comp. It was a pretty much just a Sivir ultimately run at you comp, right? Sivir with
Yep.
Talisman with Swain. I don't know how we screwed that up, but we do. And by the end of the game, I think we were just really worried about taking any sort of engage. We were just, out of the thought that we could ever take an engage. There was a lot of chatter on our comms when it was happening, and I don't know, like a couple people said let's go for the base trade, a couple people said let's back, and I'm the main shot caller, so I take all the blame because I didn't just go ahead and say screw this, let's all base, let's take a fight and not lose the game. But yeah, it was just a bunch of mixed up calls based on really poor information, and ended poorly for us.
It's just a little bit unfortunate one. And of course, after losing that game, it's a little bit sort of difficult for the team together. How did you guys sort of manage to keep your morale up moving forward? Because of course, we're at the business end of the season. There is still an opportunity for you guys to make playoffs, considering how the rest of the night shook up. How important is it for you guys to make sure that you stay positive?
I don't know who stay positive. We basically instantly got off the TeamSpeak and just took a solid hour-ish break because we still had more practice that night. And we're still apparently I'm too quiet and your mic's crackling. By the way, I don't know if you're reading the chat or not.
Crackling. T-Gun's
Yeah.
pretty quiet. All right, hang on. Give me a moment. I'll see whether I can fix that one for you guys. But you continue, T-Gun. Just hopefully you're going to be a bit louder after
Yeah,
that.
hopefully.
Everything's actually pretty sorted, to be honest.
So yeah, we basically just all bailed for an hour and a bit, tried to calm down because we were, I think, unhappy is a very nice way to put it.
An understatement, perhaps.
Yeah. And came back and, every now and then we play like, I'm allowed to swear here, right? I don't care. We play like shit every now and then.
I think shit you can be okay with, yeah.
Yeah, we are immunity, obviously. But I think we'll come back stronger. We should beat Absolute. Fingers crossed it didn't just jinx that as well. And looking forward, I'll be honest with you, we're pretty much counting ourselves out of semis. Like we still want to make them, obviously, but realistically, our goal right now is to make 5th/6th, to give ourselves the best chance of staying in for next split.
Well, of course, that 5th position really going to be able to lock you in there for a good period of time. But sort of you actually came out and said yourself you're mainly focusing on getting to that sort of solid position where you can make sure that you can make a run for it next split. Do you have any plans moving forward, any sort of practice ideas over the break? Because there's quite a long time before sort of the first split of 2016 before that comes around.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're going to do like maybe we do a split before 2016 or we have a tournament or something. I don't know if we're doing anything or not. If not, it'd be great for us because then we could just knuckle down and practice. But we don't really have plans right now because we have I don't know if this is common knowledge, but it's not exactly a secret, is that Cheese is going overseas.
Oh, okay.
Around the semis or the finals. I think it's around July 4th. I'm not quite certain. So we have to wait for him to get back to really knuckle down and set forward a new plan, a new sort of strategy. But we sort of just need more information on what's going to happen in the the rest of the year. There's still 6 months left.
Yeah, and it does seem to be a little bit of the story of immunity as well moving forward, is the fact that you guys cycled through about 3 junglers before you landed on Soul Strikes properly during the middle of the season. Now Overnus is on the team as well, so sort of Soul Strike's gone, and then as soon as he theoretically comes back, it's going to be Cheese gone as well. It's sort of like one thing leading to another for you guys. Are you hoping for a more stable split, of course, next time around? And do you think that you guys will be playing with a little bit more of a like heightened chins moving into this one just because you'll feel like everything's solid?
I mean, having a solid roster would be great. I think if we had a solid roster, we'd be able to make a run for third, second, maybe even first. Less likely to be first with how strong Chiefs are right now.
Mhm.
But it's a very big problem that we have. As you said, Soul Strike's going overseas, so we have a sub, and then by the time Soul Strikes gets back, Cheese is going to go overseas, so we're going to have a sub. It's really difficult to sort of build game plans around that. We're pretty
Yeah.
much just playing as like a typical ranked 5 teams was. If you grabbed 4 of your mates, jumped on Skype, and said, let's have a crack at this, right? But I think once we finally settle everything down and can get into a proper practice schedule, we'll be able to put up results, hopefully more impressive than winning a game and losing a game every week, or more specifically this season, going about one. I think we have about a 33% win rate, something like that. It's not impressive. Not
It's,
impressive.
it's it's not necessarily impressive, but it's not horrible. You guys actually had
It's
sort of
pretty horrible.
You had a period of time where things were actually looking great, especially like your performances on the Rift in those games themselves. So like your victories definitely look solid, and you look like you're a team that's ready to take on the world. But it's really hard when you then go from that and feeling like you've got this much control to sort of losing control of, getting base race to a victory there for Sudden
Yeah.
Fear. Of course, the rest of that game actually looked to me like you guys had sort of a game plan moving forward. You're happy to sort of concede certain objectives because you felt like you could just out engage them towards the end, but then sort of this weird base race comes around and undoes that all. So I know what you're saying with the fact that it's a little bit harder, but you still definitely look like a team that could possibly make it.
Well, everyone, it's pretty simple. Everyone looks good in a victory.
Well, I
Simple
guess
as
that's
that.
true.
Like every time you win, you just look good in the victory, and I mean, it's more telling of how you perform in a loss
Okay.
is the big thing in my opinion. Um, Look at teams like I want to say teams like Dials and Legacy is that even when they lose, they still look reasonably good. They look like they had a solid game plan. They knew what they were doing. They just got
Yep.
slightly out rotated, slightly caught out. Like there was a little bit of a problem. Whereas some of the games that we've lost in, like the base race game, we just look like fools, and we need to work on that.
No, I wouldn't say necessarily fools, but I am going to move over to our next video, ladies and gentlemen, because unfortunately, I feel like T-Gun may have actually given Sudden Fear their key to victory. Because we actually interviewed T-Gun.
In general,
He
here
was
for
on the
Sudden
desk,
Fear,
and
do you have
we'll
an
just play it
idea
out
of
right
what
now.
Their problem is
Sorry,
as a
2
team moving
atlases.
forward? Because they're 0-9 now. Something really needs to give.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to say. I think their drafting was good besides one mistake, so it's hard to criticize that. Maybe it's they don't practice enough. I don't know. Maybe it's some of their players have motivation issues. Maybe it's communication issues. But again, I'm not privy to this information, so it's difficult to make an educated guess. But at the base level, they're just not as good as the other players on the other teams.
Yeah, it looks like they just need to sort of maybe get their synergy working
Well,
together as well.
Heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. T-Gun actually giving Sudden Fear their keys to the victory is just be better players.
I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, so definitely making things work out here for Sudden Fear. So we'll see whether they can, utilize it further and maybe grab even more sweet things in order, like sweet victories as they move forward. But of course, their road to the victory is not necessarily possible at this stage. When you drop 10 games, things are a little bit more difficult to move back into. But we do have a few questions, ladies and gentlemen. You have at least thrown us a couple here over on Twitter, and we are going to get them answered for you by T-Gun. Of course, Damo D actually got through the first one after Hamish asked about my hair, but there's no need to ask about that because it's right there in front of you. You can answer all your own questions. Damo D, though, asks, is it difficult going against such high competition such as EGIM? All of that sort of international experience coming through. Are there sort of players in the OPL that you find intimidating?
Not really. I feel like if I found someone intimidating, I'd probably play poorly against them.
Mhm.
It's pretty. I go into every game just thinking it's another player. I have more backstory with them. Like I know King's going to be incredibly aggressive even without a jungler. I know Raiders maybe not going to play too well in the lane, but he's absolutely going to crush mid game and late game with really
Yep.
good positioning and really good mechanics. But I wouldn't say afraid. I do read up on my opponents and sort of get a good handle on their playstyle, but I don't really worry about their skill levels.
Yeah, it's not necessarily something that you go into. And do you find it's actually really important to have that sort of level of confidence going in, so you play more against the champion rather than the player to make sure that you don't get psyched out?
Pretty much. Like, it's it happened to me in StarCraft. Is how I'd put it. I used to, when I was coming up as a player, I would think, oh my god, I'm playing whoever I'm playing. Let's say who was someone good I played really, really early? Kiwi Kaki is someone I played really early. He was really
Mm.
good at the time, and I was worried. I'm like, oh god, what do I do? What do I do? And I psyched myself out and played like an idiot. So I figured, going forward from there, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm not going to play like an idiot because this person is well known. So it's just not even anywhere in my thought process when going into the game. Oh, it's Ejim, he's good. Let's ban Alistair because he's good at it. It's more or less just I know I need to respect a lot of what he does, and I know where I can exploit how he plays and
Yep.
build off that.
Use that knowledge more to gain an advantage rather than to just psych yourself out, as you so eloquently put it. But we are going to move forward, so let's get back into it. Some good news now, T-Gun. Of course, we are going to talk about the fact that on the standings, there is still an opportunity for you guys to get back into the playoffs. I mean, there are teams that aren't necessarily getting the results that we'd otherwise expect. Sin falling behind just a little bit, unfortunately. They had a sort of peak performance towards the beginning, and then Sin sort of fallen behind since then. But you're below them by only a couple of points here on the standings so far. So do you think that you'll actually be able to get ahead? I know we've spoken about
Oh, really?
we've spoken about the playoffs before, but I have a feeling like you just pick up a couple of victories, your road towards the finals aren't actually that bad, really, because your next few matches aren't really looking
It's
necessarily that awful. You've got Absolute on Thursday, and then you've got, I believe, Legacy and Avant that you've got to take
yeah.
on then. And
I'm
Avant,
not
that's
sure
possibly
which order
2 point
we
swing.
take it,
Yeah.
but we, like I said before, we're not expecting to make semis at this stage. We're completely looking to the future and trying to stabilize our roster, try and make long-term decisions. It'd be great if we made the semis, and obviously we're going to give every game our full attention. But the plan right now is let's scrape together what we can and get into the semis because, like you said before, for us to get into the semis, we need a lot of other things to happen. We need teams to beat others that isn't very likely. We need some teams to drop games. It's a whole just it's hard to talk about swearing. There's just too many things that need to happen that are out of our control for us to really think, okay, let's go for the semis. So our main goal is to sort of build for the future instead of worrying about it.
Yeah, and you're thinking about like any roster changes moving forward? Is there anyone that you've
I can't
been
talk about that.
Oh, dang it. I was trying to go for the sneaky one, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't get there.
It's not
T-Gun's
gonna
just too,
happen.
he's too on form. It's like you got me when we were in the middle of the OPL as well, when you came on so nicely onto the desk and had a chat. Wouldn't give away any of his secret strategies. It's ridiculous. Just don't understand. But let's move away from OPL for a moment. After answering a couple of questions, let's get some questions in here first, because of course, Jewel SMG has asked a couple of them here. But what were the comms like during that base race? Was his first question. And I know we just keep bringing it back to that sudden fear loss. But what were the comms like? Were you sort of yelling at each
blame
other,
you.
or did nothing happen?
No, it was a lot. It's hard to compare, but it was a lot quieter than you'd expect. Most people would be thinking their comms must be a mess. They must be screaming over each other and all hate each other. But it was very quiet, and it was just a bad call, and everyone followed through with it. No one really picked up on the fact that hey, they have Kate, Jana, Jace, two of which are extremely fed, one of which is built to siege towers. Maybe we should piss off and defend our base instead of me flailing around a tower like Alistair does oh so well. And we just sort of, by the time we knew it was past the point of return, by the time Malachi was there, able to stop our backs,
Yeah.
everyone was just sort of quiet, solemnly accepting the defeat, and pretty, pretty depressed. It was just a bad call. No one sort of recognized it when it was made. No one stepped up and said it
Yeah.
was dumb, which I put on myself. Like I said, I'm the main shot caller. And yeah, it was actually a lot more controlled than you'd expect.
I actually find it interesting. Just to follow on from that, do you think it'd be valuable to have a second voice on the team if it wasn't just you? Maybe add
It was
some.
Soul Strikes.
Of course,
It
of
was,
course.
he's like I said before, he does a lot of our pick ban strategy. He knows a lot about almost every player in the OPL. It's actually almost
Wow.
intimidating how much he knows. And he did a lot helping me make calls, giving me a lot of information, making backup calls, things like that. So, like I said before, losing him was a huge blow, and I'm almost certain that if he was there last night, the game would have been extremely different. we probably
Yep.
wouldn't have been in the position. But if we were, he would have been, on TeamSpeak calling me an idiot and telling everyone to get out of there.
Yep. No. We're not going for a base race T-gun. We've only got a Civer. Let's go the hell back home. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty decent idea. But of course, you
Couple
guys
more
sort of
swear words.
yeah, you guys sort of understood the fact that you got to get something done now that it was very difficult to fight the Sudden Fear lineup considering what was going on. So I sort of understood there why there was the call made to say let's try and take as much of the base because we can outscale, and then things just went wrong. But we can move on from that because Dual SMG, thank goodness, actually has another question here. He says, apart from the Chiefs, who is the strongest team in the OPL? And I like it the fact
Legacy.
that he, well, I hadn't even finished my sentence. Why so sure about Legacy at the moment?
Direwolves have Sharp as a top laner who is subpar at best.
Hmm.
They've just got a new bot lane in King and Nada, so they have pretty much no synergy there. King is very exploitable, although very few people do it.
Okay.
Perfection's still settling into his mid role, and
Although he was originally
think-
mid laner, of course.
yeah, of course he's coming back to it, but he's still settling back into it.
Okay.
And I think Cybele was a downgrade from Soul Strikes. I don't know why they let him go, but we're happy to take him. Whereas Legacy not only have they got a really good starting roster. I guess Minky would be the one that you would be like, sort of like Sharp is for Direwolves.
Yep.
But they have a lot of depth to their roster because they have their challenger team. They have Claire on their sub. I'm not sure who else they have on their subs, but I know they have Claire on their subs, which he is arguably better than Choo Choo's already.
Well,
let
actually,
alone-
when Claire was playing for
into it.
Immunity, when we were talking about him on the caster desk, we were saying things like he's sort of the prodigy of the OC region. This guy really erupted onto the scene. A lot of his assassin play was
Yeah, he's
unbelievable.
really good.
Claire was
He's
amazing.
incredibly good. We'd love to have him back. We love having Cheese right now as it is, and I think one-on-one Cheese would hold his own against Claire. But
Cheese would
having
hold his own
someone like
against
that-
anyone. I just need to put
Yeah,
this out right
absolutely.
now. Cheese is the most unpredictable mid laner in the OPL. There is no OPL mid laner that is not sort of confused and frightened of going against Cheese because no one ever knows what he's going to do. That's the
Yeah.
thing, and it's such a valuable set to have on a
I
on a
didn't
mid
mean
laner.
taking Claire over Cheese. I meant having him as a backup as Legacy dudes.
Yeah.
Just crazy having that sort of depth. Not many people know the top laner for the challenge team. Pac-Man, I think he's
Mhm.
going by now. He changed his name a couple times. Darn good top laner in his own right. They just have a lot of depth to their team, and being able to draw on that's going to help them in the future. They
Okay.
might not beat Direwolves this season, but the standings that I expect to finish is going to be Chiefs and then Legacy Direwolves in 2 and 3, so they'll play in the semis, and then Avant coming in 4th. And that second and third place game is going to show you who is the best team at the time. But I think, going into the next split, whenever it starts, you're going to be looking at power rankings, seeing, and I think almost everyone will agree with it, is Chiefs, then Legacy, then probably Direwolves, then Avant, and the bottom 4 will be, up in the air.
Yeah, honestly, severely up in the air, I think, would be my personal opinion if I was to add to it, because I don't know really what's going on towards the bottom half of the standings. But you're right, I guess sort of Avant trying to get up there, but it's interesting because Sin already tied with them at the moment, but they seem to be falling off just a little bit, having lost that game to, a whole bunch of subs from Absolute. That must have been a little bit of a disappointing
I didn't even
loss.
watch the game. I just heard about the results. I need to go back and watch that. Maybe
it was
it'll
very strange. Very
maybe it'll
strange.
make me happy that we lost. Well, not happy that we lost, but a little happier knowing that other people were struggling at the same time. It's always nice to go down with other people.
It honestly was a very good thing for Immunity as far as your chances to get over to the playoffs are concerned. Honestly, how the whole night went was actually very, very important, considering the fact
course.
that Avant lost to Legacy and Sin lost to Absolute means that we're sort of back to square one just a little bit, only a couple of points between you guys. So, look, we'll see how it goes moving forward. Of course, Thursday is going to be the day, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to have the second day of week 6, and it's the second last week of the OPL. This season has gone past incredibly quickly, and you're exactly right to think of, what are we going to do next split, because we don't have a lot of this one left. So it does make a fair bit of sense. We do have another couple of questions, though, as, where were we? Just give me one moment. Has there been any time where you've doubted yourself when going into an OPL game because of previous solo queue games? Says Killer Potato.
Again, not really. A good thing to sort of calm my nerves. This links back to my StarCraft days,
Yep.
and it's sort of a humble brag, but I'm okay with it because hell, it happened to me. I met a guy called Lim Yo Hwan, who, if you don't know who that is, it's Slayer's boxer. If you don't know who that
Oh,
is, you
wow.
need to Google it because he is
Come on, anyone that knows esports knows boxer. Let's be
arguably
honest.
the most famous StarCraft player of all time, maybe behind Flash nowadays, but that's far and beyond. I got to meet him at one stage, which is just amazing because he's one of my
Wow,
heroes
yeah.
coming into esports. And he told me the best advice because the first question I asked him, I go, how do you stop yourself from being nervous? And he goes, he's still nervous going into games, but he sort of, you know, stops himself being as nervous by just practicing so much that everything is muscle memory.
Oh, wow.
You're not worried about how you're going to perform, what you're going to do. You're just playing another game, and that's pretty much how I am. I just play as much as possible. I practice as much as possible, put myself in as many situations as possible, be it roaming, be it 1v2s, 2v1s, playing from behind, playing from ahead, playing with weird summoners, stuff like that. Just every
Yep.
single situation I can think of, so that when I go into a game, I'm as comfortable as I possibly can be, and I'm not going to be surprised by anything.
Yeah, and it's also flexibility as well there. As you mentioned, sort of playing in a whole lot of different situations, making sure that that muscle memory can be there no matter what happens, and being able to pick up whichever champions that you want in that stage as well is very, very important. But let's sort of move back into the conversation here just for a moment, because I want to talk about sort of how you started here into esports, and you're definitely a player with a whole lot more lineage than everyone else, because League of Legends, relatively young game, but the rest of esports has been going around for quite some time, and you actually had a few moments there in WCS, and we actually found a video of you against Mafia. You actually described the
I
fact
hate
that
this video.
you hate it, but look, it's pretty huge. The fact that you're being casted by Tastosis, definitely two shoutcasters that I definitely look up to, is that's telling enough in my book, because WCS was a big deal back in the day. This is 2013, T-Gun. It's a long time ago, but we are going to bring it up onto your screen. And T-Gun, I just want you to just tell us while I play this one out exactly what's going on. Of course, the audio was a little bit crappy, but there's a whole lot of borrowed things. I don't know very much about StarCraft, but that seems bad. Is that bad for you? Is the blue side?
Okay. Have you got the video playing?
It's
'Cause
playing.
I
It's
can't see.
playing right now.
Okay. So in this game, I was not too far behind, but I was a little bit behind Mafia, and I was thinking, I need to do something big to get back into it. So you can do this thing where you go underground and you can move your stuff around, and he can't see it unless he has detection. And I built a couple flying units to take care of his detection. Now, an interesting part of this game is that we could hear the crowd screaming.
Oh,
And
wow.
because everyone was hitting the ground, whatever, he feels shaking. So after the game, Mafia comes over to me and he says, "I was looking everywhere, trying to work out what everyone was getting so hyped about." So he didn't even know it was going to
Oh,
happen.
right.
But
Okay, so it wasn't really...
yeah, this was a last-ditch effort to get
Ah.
back into the game,
Yeah.
and it almost worked. But I still ended up losing the game. And the thing that hurt most was that people would come up to me and say that was the closest game I've ever seen.
Oh,
And you
that's
know what I'm
awful.
thinking when they say that? Closest game you've ever seen, me lose. That's all I'm thinking. I'm thinking this is my shot to, because the winner of this went overseas and they got more money, obviously, which is always a benefit. And all I'm thinking is closest game I've lost. All I had to do was play, not even a percentage better, fraction of a percentage better. I would have won the game.
And what part of the tournament was this game as well, Tegan?
That was the third place. That was to get into the grand finals from the loser side of the bracket.
Oh, wow.
The top two went through to, I can't remember, but I'm almost certain it was China. I think the WCS finals were in China.
The
I'm not certain.
Guangzhou would have been
Yeah.
WCS Guangzhou. That would have been
I
2013.
think so.
A little
I'm
while
not,
ago.
I'm not certain what it was, but it doesn't matter where. It was the top two went overseas to represent not just Australia, Oceania, so Australia, New Zealand.
Yep.
More money, more fame. Not a bad thing.
Definitely not.
And,
Definitely not.
On top of that, I hate losing in general. So
Yep.
that sucked. But that's pretty much when I decided that I was done with StarCraft. I hung on with it for a couple months after. I shouldn't have, but I
Yep.
did. Because after that, I still attended an MLG. But even after that, I was around Diamond rank in NA. This is back when it was the ELO system, and I think Diamond was 2200.
Yep, I remember that.
I remember correctly. I was about that. I should have just swapped to League then and there, because that was probably the most crushing defeat I'll ever have in gaming, unless we make it overseas to something big overseas, like I don't know, like
Worlds? Let's just go
yeah,
with Worlds.
yeah,
Yep.
let's go with Worlds. Like
Yeah.
that's happening in the near future. Unless something like that happens, that's the most crushing defeat I've had in any game.
Well, we'll see whether you can, get up to another crushing defeat like that. Because, in order to get there, you need to have some successes, and that's fantastic in and
Sure.
to itself. I'm actually a person that really does enjoy to actually hang on to the things like the victories. Did you actually, how was your StarCraft career before this particular moment? Because, of course, you must have had some moving into WCS.
Yeah, I'd won a bunch of tournaments online and locals and whatnot, and won a couple thousand in prize money and stuff. But
Yep.
that was probably the biggest tournament in Australia that had ever happened. And I don't know that everyone had built themselves up to that because we knew that next year it wasn't going to happen again. Blizzard was quite obviously pulling funds out of Australia, and this was just their last hurrah, I guess.
Yeah.
But before this, it wasn't anything. There was never anything in Australia as big as that. I guess the biggest thing that I'd won before that was when I won a gaming laptop for my brother who was going
Wow, nice.
overseas a couple months later, and he needed a laptop, and I was like, "Sweet, here you go, you can have this." So that was pretty cool. That's like the biggest thing I've won, but mostly because it's sentimental because I gave it to my brother who's in Japan right now.
Wow. Not bad. Is he playing fighting games?
That'd be a great reason to be over there. No,
Damn right.
he's over there to live for 2 years and teach and
Oh, wow.
whatnot. He
Oh,
plays
teaching
games
English in
general.
Japan. All right, fantastic. Actually, you actually mentioned the fact that you transitioned to League very shortly after WCS. How was that transition going from sort of this largely macro-based game where you're sort of moving around lots of micromanagement to this game where you're focusing purely on one champion and making sure that you get those mechanics very sort of micro-centric at the same time? Is it a difficult transition?
It was. It's a little difficult because there's pretty much no crossover of skill, but at the same time, I brought a really good practice and an improvement mentality that a lot of people still don't have in League. And like I said before, I was already high ELO on the NA servers before I even swapped over because it was a game I played with a bunch of friends just to sort of relax and calm down.
Yep.
Uh, so it wasn't too difficult. I think about 2 months after I got my Oceanic account to level 30 because I forgot my old account. Like I said, I did attend an MLG and I had uninstalled League and completely removed it off everything I had to focus on StarCraft.
Yep.
So I made a new account, got to level 30. It took about a month and a half, 2 months to hit Challenger ELO and 3 months to actually get into the Challenger ladder. So
My
it wasn't
goodness.
too difficult. And I still had some contacts from the StarCraft scene that they transferred over to League and they were like, hey, I can put a good word in for you and get you into a team. So that obviously helped a fair bit.
Yeah, fantastic. And what? Beg your pardon? We've actually already answered that one, so that's a little bit ridiculous. But I think it's actually really cool that you've had sort of this experience within StarCraft and League of Legends. What do you feel about the sort of the evolution of League of Legends esports in comparison to like the evolution of StarCraft esports as that time went? Of course, there is sort of very different timing windows. And how do you think, as far as League of Legends, we haven't actually got to sort of much of the point where StarCraft made it to, especially in Korea. How do you think the evolution has gone for both of these particular games?
StarCraft sort of died out because it's not the game that prospers in Korea. Korea loves free-to-play games. They love, I believe it's Sudden Attack. It's basically a Counter-Strike clone that's free. They love Brood War. It's still, I believe, it's somewhere in the top 10 of the most played games in PC bungs in Korea. They just love free-to-play games. StarCraft 2, not free-to-play from the beginning, so that's why it just didn't prosper. And they also had a lot of issues with KESPA, which is the Korean Esports Association, which controls a lot of the esports over there, because obviously Brood War is probably the most pirated game ever. And Blizzard sort of went in and said, you know what, we're not going to let you guys control a competitive scene that we want to control. So they just sort of pitter-pattered out until recently, where they've started actually getting a solid basis and a solid competitive scene, whereas League just had ridiculously explosive growth. Once it got picked up in PC bungs over there, they have a lot of stuff like, I think if you play from one, you get extra IP per game you play, and every champ's unlocked, and there's some skins that you're only able to use in a PC. I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. There's just a lot of stuff that you get for free over there when you play in a net cafe. So that benefits itself it lends itself to the growth of esports, and that's pretty much what sort of helped League grow as big as it has.
Well, like we'll see whether it can get even bigger as we move forward. Of course, there's a lot of sort of hurdles to get over, and when you're sort of now trying to get esports into the realm of like regular sports, it makes it a whole lot more difficult. There's sort of larger things that you've got to tackle, like massive multi-hundred-year sort of traditions and things like that. When you're talking about stuff like soccer and things that have been going on for absolutely forever. But let's answer a couple more questions. Pierce or Dual SMG has another one. He's actually asking, who are the strongest two champions in each role for solo queue?
Each role for
In
solo
your
queue.
opinion, Tegan.
Support right now is Thresh and Bard if played extremely well. If not, Thresh and probably Nautilus. ADC is Callista and Sivir. Purely because even if you lose lane with Sivir, you're just
Press
useful anyway.
R. Yeah?
Yeah, press your ulti and suddenly your team's useful. Mid lane, it has a lot of champions, but TF is probably the best to just carry with if you can get any sort of map presence around the map. And then if you just want to be a beast in mid lane, I won't cop out. I'll name one champion. Cassiopeia got nerfed, so it won't be her. Let's go with TF and probably still Kassadin. If he gets rolling, he can just be an absolute monster, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I think that's a good point too.
Jungle, Echo, and Gragas are the top two in my opinion.
Really? Not Rek'Sai or anything like that? And
No,
remember, this
Rek'Sai
is
is
solo
basically
queue. I
a-
mean, you can say Pantheon and Master Yi if you feel like it.
I could, but I don't think they do as well as those two.
Damn it, my Master Yi. I can't bring it back out again.
Unlucky, buddy. And top lane, as far as solo queue goes, I'd say split pushes are probably the best top laners if you just want to straight hard carry games. So just mastering in like a weird top laner that people don't know how to play against, like Fiora, would be a good idea. There's a well-known Fiora only challenger player who just wins lane every game. It's kind of ridiculous.
Wow.
Or you can go with something traditional like Gnar, who just has a huge impact in team fights.
And Nara is also a fantastic split pusher at the same time. I personally would recommend Pantheon because all you do is all of your buttons
just like
and you
Pantheon,
beat
don't you?
everyone. No, I don't. I actually I find Pantheon an awful champion because I never
Then
beat
stop-
him in lane and
stop
I never
recommending
play him. But if you want to win, generally I see him win quite a lot when I'm in solo queue.
Yeah.
That being said,
There's a
I'm
lot
not
of jokes
very
about
high
Pantheon
up.
mains that I'm not going to say on stream because they'll get me in trouble.
Oh, why? Is there a way that you can censor them, Tegan? Can
Nope.
you bring it to
Not
our
happening.
ears?
Not happening.
Damn it, you're trying to. So we got to the top lane. Have we spoken about the support role yet?
Yeah, Thresh and Bard.
Thresh
Or
and
Thresh
Bard,
and
so not
Nautilus.
Blitzcrank. Because I'm looking at Twitch chat
Yeah.
right now, and
Well,
people
Blitz
are trying
works,
to
and
remind you of
You'll
Blitzcrank.
climb with it because people are dumb, but it's not the best. You wanted the best. You didn't want the
Yeah,
most fun.
that's true. And yeah, Thresh and Bard, pretty good. I actually find it interesting that you'd recommend Bard in solo queue. Wouldn't his ultimate just be absolutely awful if it doesn't land exactly right?
He's a pretty big lane bully if played correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And his ults, it's not the easiest thing to land, but once you understand how to use it, you'll be a beast. His roaming's pretty much second to only someone like Blitzcrank, who has a huge impact when he roams. Bard's roaming is crazy. His runes are insane for laning. He's just very, very good for solo queue. I think if you find a good Bard player, they're hard to beat.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, let's move forward. Let's actually have a look at some positives here as we're getting towards the end of the day. I want to actually have a look at your Blitzcrank from EB Expo in 2014. This is something that I'm very excited about, and especially considering the fact that we actually have a highlight video of the sweep plays that you guys had against the Chiefs. Of course, this is a big deal, Tegan, okay? Because you were one of the only teams that managed to take games off the Chiefs towards the end of the year. So, look, we'll see how it went. Let's just pop over here just for a moment and have a look at this.
Exactly what we... Oh, there's the look actually on Spooks. Immediately getting taken down from a power spike. Spooks actually getting caught here. Getting left on here by Zahi. There's the flash into the rocket grab as well. And fall down. Zahi picks up that kill. Raven gets caught out of position. T-Gun on Blitzcrank is such a joy to watch. He's such a playmaker.
There you are. T-Gun on Blitzcrank, such a playmaker. Not sure why you don't play him anymore. Really upset about it, but I've spoken about it way too much. One thing I
copped
do
so
want to
much
talk...
flack for that video. You don't even know.
I don't know why. I
No.
believe you actually lost that game in the end. But still,
Yeah, we did.
you landed the maddest hooks
We
So
threw the game
it's
as well.
it's a win in my book. So look, well actually you'd already won the first game of that series if I remember correctly. So you
I
guys
think that was
were
game
up
three.
one.
I'm almost certain that was game three.
Hmm.
Um, the Blitzcrank game because we had a 100% win rate with it in
Oh wow.
scrims. So our whole plan was, oh, we'll just do it game three. They won't know what to do, and they didn't know what to do, and then we threw the game. It was great.
Oh no, of course. Actually, going up, that was a 2-1 victory in favor of the Chiefs for that particular one. So you guys very, very close. Pipped at the post there just a little bit. But let's go back to our question. So you say that Blitz doesn't fit the tanky meta at the moment. Are there any other champions that you wish were viable in competitive play? Anything that you sort of really love to play but you sort of can't at the moment? And I know it's not Nami.
um, Karma's pretty fun. Yeah, Nami sucks. Karma's pretty fun. Leona would be great, and she still
Mm.
does sort of work in competitive, so she's not exactly the greatest example. I guess Karma's the best example. I would love to play Tarek again. I love Tarek. He's very fun to play.
Fun? Doesn't
Yeah,
he just walk
absolutely.
around and you press dazzle and you're really
Do you
fancy
know how
looking?
fun it is to just walk up to people as a guy wearing gemmed armor and just be like, "The you gonna do about me?" You know, it is the greatest thing in the world, and it still sort of works if the enemy's full AD. But you know, he's very niche. But Leon is probably my favorite realistic Mr. Tarek hater champion.
Well, no. I'm not a Tarek hater. I live with Spawn, who you actually just saw in the background on the screen. So, yeah, don't worry. He is definitely an advocate of the gemmed man himself. But I just wouldn't have expected it as like necessarily a favored pick of yours, just because your mechanical skill is rather high.
You don't think I look good enough to play Tarek?
No,
Is that what it
no.
is?
Nothing
Only
about
people
that.
that look as good as Spawn can play Tarek? You watch yourself.
You see that?
I know where the Riot Studios are.
That doesn't quite work because you've got this fancy new haircut now, so you're actually looking fantastic. So you can't really make it happen. It was actually very confusing for people when we put you on screen before because that hair was out of
Yeah.
control, and now it's
So
like oh.
and then you put me on screen with the other screen of me at the studio
I know,
where I look
I know.
like
You
I
get to
hadn't
look at, you get to check
yeah.
out all of your mistakes. There
Yeah,
we are.
that's it.
Illustrated for you right in front of you there. But I actually want to talk a little bit about sort of Immunity's bot lane at the moment and sort of how that's affected you because you've laned with like so many different AD carries. Of course, notably it was Uberbro for most of 2014. Of course, a little bit of last split as well in early 2015. But you've laned with Denian and then you moved over to Zenk now in the lineup. How has it been like building synergy with multiple players and making sure that you can get them suited to the team? And do you feel that has helped you, or has it sort of set you back? Is it sort of good to have a lot of variety?
Well, it's obviously set me back. It's been good for me. Like I now understand how to transition through ADs very easily and get them up to speed. But
Yep.
it's I don't know. Let's go through chronologically. Uberbro was very. I like the guy. Before I say anything, I like the guy. So don't take this the wrong way. But it was very difficult for me to work with because I was always trying to live up to his brother's shoes.
Oh yeah,
Which was
little
extremely
Uberkind, yeah. Yep.
extremely difficult because the way they played together for a long time, and I think it was Little Uber just called the whole lane, everything in the lane. Um, and you know, this is the first guy I'd played competitively in a great team with, and now he wants me to call the whole lane. And it was very difficult to adjust to.
Yeah, okay, that'd make a whole lot of sense.
Then we moved on to Denian, who played completely the opposite. He wanted to call most of the lane and just wanted me to feed him information,
Okay.
which is all right. And now we move to Zank, someone who hasn't played competitive before. So now I'm going back to leading the whole lane, telling him what to do, while I'm still trying to call for the team in general. So it's three different, well, not completely different, but mostly different play styles that I've been through. And I don't know, it would have been a heck of a lot easier if I just stuck with 180, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I guess it's good to have sort of a little bit more experience with multiple people there as well, making sure that you're sort of leveling yourself up so you can be the best player that you can be. But it must be difficult sort of controlling a lane at the same time as trying to shot call. I could imagine that'd be sort of the biggest problem. But how are you at sort of following orders as opposed to giving them, especially when you've sort of had this experience of doing both now? Does it make you sort of a little bit more capable of taking like commands and advice and stuff like that?
I've always been fine with following orders. You know, coming
Mhm.
from the StarCraft scene, if anyone was giving you tips, you just listen to them. It doesn't matter. If you're asking someone for help or if someone's telling you something, generally they know a bit more than you.
Okay.
So it wasn't exactly something difficult to adjust to. It's just I don't know. I'd say the biggest thing is it's weird to change styles so often. I'd rather just play with one AD for a solid
Yeah.
5 6 months period and get to the point that we don't exactly need to talk heaps. We just know what the other's going to do and work from there.
Okay, that makes a bit of sense. But have you sort of found now that you've played with so many different people a sort of a favored playstyle, one that you sort of like the most, judging by the fact that you've had so many different lanes that you've got to experience? Of course, I'm thinking about Uberbro, who wasn't all that aggressive in lane and then moving straight to Denny, and who is like the polar opposite. Like,
Yep.
it's like 12 o'clock versus 6 o'clock going on right now, and it's a little bit crazy.
I've always liked playing aggressive. I think that
Mhm.
a lot of oceanic bot laners make a lot of mistakes in lane. One for example is Raider's laning is not that great. People think it is, but it
Mhm.
makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, you watch when Zenk and I played him, and we got a turnaround kill after missing first blood that we should have got first blood in. Um, and we still turn around and kill him after we gave up first blood against him.
I
You
remember
know,
that.
he's an amazing player mid game and late game, easily the best in Australia. But his laning is not that great, and I think we could be abusing it and taking a lot more of advantages out of laning. And you can only do that if you play aggressive. You can't do that playing passive. But it's very difficult to convince people because in general, people don't want to win. They just want to not make mistakes. It's pretty much how
Yeah.
Chiefs win games. They don't make mistakes, which leads to you not taking many risks and not trying to press advantages. So it's just a difficult thing to get people in the habit of.
Yeah, there's a difference between winning and not losing, like playing to win as
Yeah.
opposed to playing to not lose. And playing to not lose doesn't generally win you a game. That's why I actually really loved when North America's, of course, LMQ went over to North America, sorry, from the Chinese region, because even when they lost, they were making all of the plays. And that's exactly what you should be trying to do. Like, that's the only way that you're going to get back into the game. Otherwise, you're just going to slowly and methodically lose. And that doesn't look good, doesn't feel good, and it's never going to work. So, of course, just making sure that you can get around the map, make things happen is going to be the best way to do it. But we are getting towards the end, ladies and gentlemen. We do have a couple more questions. There's one that's a little bit of an
Good. I'm
interesting
almost
one.
out of chocolate milk, so I hope we finish soon.
Need to go and refill the chocolate milk. We could go for like
Exactly.
a break. We can put on the "Let's all go to the lobby" song or something like that. Get yourself some chocolate milk, perhaps. Not sure whether we'll do that. But Timo or Poppy? You had to choose one. Which would it be?
To remove from the game?
No. You had to choose one. I don't know. Maybe to marry.
To do what to?
That's the question. The question is just Timo or Poppy. Timo or Poppy is the question.
See, there's a very
You get to
you know,
define
I
the
need
question.
A qualifier, right?
You get to define the question. Okay.
To remove from the game, Poppy.
Really?
Over Timo. Because it's a
Over
hell of a lot
Timo.
easier to kill Timo than it is to kill Poppy.
That's a good point. Timo makes you feel
To have
worse.
on my team, Timo, because someone on the enemy team is going to rage quit because they're playing against Timo. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you give me more qualifiers, I can keep answering. But that's just such a weird question to just have hanging there.
I know, just Timo or Poppy. It's not exactly that great. But look, you came up with a couple of decent options as far as where it could have gone. So I actually appreciate it a lot, Tegan. Thank you very much. But that's all we've got time to for that one. Tegan, do you have any shout-outs or anything like that as we close out the show?
Just shout outs to my team, obviously. Love them all. And all of our sponsors help us do what we do. You can follow me on Twitter at IM_Tgun and on Twitch at twitch.tv/TgunTV.
And do you
That's about it.
stream regularly as well? Is there a way that you can
Yeah,
let us
it'll
know some
basically
streaming
be
times?
Every day from 3 o'clock onwards, except Wednesdays, and weekends are sort of up in the air depending on what I'm doing.
Okay, so definitely with a bit of a streaming schedule, and you're demonstrating exactly that sort of practice regime that you let us know that you definitely had going on. But thank you very much for joining us, Tegan. It was absolutely fantastic having you on the show. And we are going to close it out, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the show, of course. So make sure you tune in next week from 7 p.m. It's actually going to be on a Wednesday night, so it's 8 days from now. Make sure that you can get that one worked out here. It's going to be on the 8th of July, where we're going to have a chat to Legacy's Minky Whale. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. We're going to talk about huge dragons and wonderful things and whether Legacy are ever going to be able to find a way to beat the Chiefs this year, because they were their Achilles heel last year during the winter qualifiers, and we'll see whether they can do it again, make their way over to the Wildcard Championships one more time. But thank you very much for watching. That is all for us today. And make sure you tune into the OPL on Thursday night from 6 o'clock. And I am right now going to go over and watch the OCS, which is going on over at twitch.tv / Riot Games Oceania. And I'm going to go check that one out. So good night, everyone, and thank you so much for watching.
Bye.
I want to give you the best of me, and I will travel across the ocean, 'cause I can say
At this point, oh, 2 DTs coming in. He's got a mothership core nearby. Let's see if we can actually see that shimmer of the DTs. Otherwise, this could be a very quick first game here, Moonlight. Here they come. Oh, look at this. That pylon that's powering that robot as well.